So, the topic we are doing right now is media representations of race and ethnicity. This particular topic, media representations of race and ethnicity, comes under the broader topic media representations. And while we speak about media representations, we had in the previous lesson, we had spoken about media representations of gender. Now we talk about media representations of race and ethnicity. And in the next lesson, we would discuss media representations of social class and age. So, to begin with, what does the word race over here mean, and how is the word race different from ethnicity? What does race mean, and how is race different from ethnicity? As you're all aware, when we talk about the word, as you all should be aware, when we talking about or when we using the word race, we usually refer to certain physical characteristics. In this day and age, race is the idea that race is or holds any biological meaning or reference or any biological attributes is negated, and many people in this day and age see race as a socially constructed phenomenon or a socially constructed classification as well. However, this socially constructed classification is typically based on physical characteristics such as it could be your skin color, it could be your hair texture, your facial features, your body structure. Whereas when you use the word ethnicity has a lot to do with the word culture, and ethnicity is a social group that is based on shared culture, language, heritage, which while we use the word culture, we're actually referring to a way of life. So if you talk about the meaning of the word race and ethnicity, both race and ethnicity today are seen as a social construct. Biologically speaking, genetics have shown that all humans are descended from a pair of African ancestors, says Rose in the year 2005. Regardless of scientific consensus, however, the term race is used to separate people with physical differences. Like I gave you an example, many people use physical characteristics to differentiate individuals on the basis of race. Many people use the word white, black, Asian, indigenous for race. Race is seen to be a fixed notion, which is again socially defined. Many people use biological appearances to differentiate amongst individuals, like we use the example of skin color over here. Though ethnicity is used interchangeably with race, ethnicity has more to do with cultural rather than physical features. Like I mentioned earlier, the term ethnicity has to do with where we use the word ethnicity to refer to a social group having similarity or differences with other on the basis of culture, language, nationality, traditions, or for the matter of fact heritage as well. The term ethnic minority should not be confused with the term ethnicity. With the term ethnic minority, immigrants and ethnicity are not interchangeable. They should not be used to replace each other. When we use the word ethnic minority, we of course referring to individuals who are in minority, who belong, who share certain characteristics which make them different from other individuals within the whole society. When we use the word immigrants, we're talking about people who, because of maybe global migration, have moved from one place of the world to another. And when we use the term ethnicity I've already mentioned twice at least. So the term ethnic minority, immigrants, and ethnicity should not be used interchangeably or should not be used to replace each other. Now, as we speak about the media representations here, race for the longest of time has been used as a weapon against people in the media. The term race has been used more so as a weapon. Oftentimes, caricatures or misrepresentativeness or exaggerated misrepresentativeness of individuals from different races that leave the rest of the world with a negative portrayal of them. Countries that were once colonized, that includes Pakistan as an example as well, has had its people made out to be largely educated and lesser as compared to the British people. And based on these notions of Western imperialism, even Pakistanis today, with even when we've stepped into uh, stepped into the 21st century, through with a quarter of the 21st century, we see that Pakistanis or South Asians are today, even today, seen as lesser beings by the people in the West. African Americans, they were often compared to monkeys and other such animals, and they were largely mocked and degraded for the features such as having big lips, curly hair, etc. At the same time, blackface and various forms of cultural appropriation are prevalent even today. Now, taking this a little further and moving on towards the sociological aspects to this, let's talk about this study that was conducted by Meadows in the year 2004. So if we speak about this study that was conducted by Michael Meadows in the year 2004, even in recent times, the portrayal of Aboriginal Australians is that of being violent, uncivilized, and primitive. So this is I just use this example over here so that you know that even today, if you talk about indigenous Australians or Australian Aborigines, they aren't really represented in the media in a very favorable or a positive manner. Taking this ahead, another example we could use is of was put forward by Lucy Frederick in the year 2012, and Lucy Frederick in the year 2012 argues that some ethnic minorities, such as the Dalits in India, have been radicalized to accept their treatment as normal. Even if you talk about contemporary, if you talk about movies on Netflix, if you talk about movies, if you, I mean, from the very recent past as well, Dalits are referred to as the untouchables, and they constitute about 130 million people. How is it fair that the media, without caring about the emotions, without being the media, don't you think should be sensitive enough they to not refer to the Dalits as untouchables? There are around 130 million people. That's quite a number. Though affirmative action was taken after the partition, the we're talking about 1947 partition, to try and even out society injustice, the fact remains that injustices even remain to be there today in India, especially in media portrayals such as films. Now, taking this ahead and quickly moving on towards the media representation of ethnic minorities in the United Kingdom. For a long time, ethnic minority faces in media portrayals were uncommon, except in that of sports or entertainers or entertainment. Now it is more common to see people of color adverts, show hosts, actors, etc. Nevertheless, the people of color is heavily stereotyped in a negative manner. People tend to associate black people, for example, with physical abilities, and they are not seen as intellectuals by and large. Likewise, if we speak about if we speak about BAME group, that is Black, Asian, and other minority ethnic groups in the UK, they for a long time have been seriously underrepresented in the mainstream UK media. I mean, if you'd see them as sportsmen, see them as sportswomen, or you'd see them as entertainers. However, if we if we take this a little further, the research suggests that BAME group, that is Black, Asian, minority ethnic groups, they continue to be represented in a stereotyped and a negative way across a range of media content. In particular, if you speak about newspapers and television news, they have a tendency to still present them, or to still present these minority ethnic groups as a problem, or to associate Black people with physical rather than their intellectual abilities. Now, taking this further, if we move on and we speak about how the media tends to represent Muslims. If we speak about media representations of Muslims in the UK, 4.5% of the population in the UK are Muslims, primarily from Pakistan or Bangladesh. And according to Kerry Moore et al.'s study in 2008, they conducted studies on how the press saw and portrayed Muslims from 2001 to 2008 after the 9/11 attacks occurred, and the term Muslim was used interchangeably with terrorists. So, this study that was conducted by Kerry Moore et al. In 2008, they carried out a content analysis of 5 alternate years of British newspaper reporting from 2000 to 2008. And they focused on the key phrases British, Muslim, and Islam. They deliberately avoided looking at coverage in 2001 and 2005 in the aftermath of 9/11 and 7/7 terrorist attacks in New York and London, respectively, because they wanted to focus on routine everyday coverage of British Muslims. So this approach helped them generate around 23,000 stories in all. And they found that the four most newsworthy and therefore common stories about British Muslims in 2000 involved terrorism, 28%, religious and cultural issues, 20%, community relations, 13%. However, between 2000 and 2008, stories on terrorism or the war on terror accounted for 36% of all stories. Now, we're talking about how Kerry Moore et al. In 2008 conducted studies on how the press saw and portrayed Muslims from 2001 and 2008. They found that there were four main ways the media portrayed Islam. Number one, Islam was presented in a dangerous, backward, and irrational as compared to the Western ways of thinking. Number two, multiculturalism was allowing extremist Muslims too much freedom to promote anti Western views. So, number three, there was a clash between the democratic West and the oppressive Islamic ways of life. Number four, that Islam was seen as a threat to the British way of life. Now, we are talking about the issues that that Moore et al. Concluded, and there were four ideological issues. The first one being Islam being seen as dangerous, backward, and irrational compared with Western thoughts and actions. The second one, that multiculturalism, with its stress on diversity and tolerance, was allowing extremist Islam too much freedom to disseminate its anti Western views in Muslim communities. Number three, that there was a fundamental clash of civilization between the democratic and free West and an oppressive Islam which restricts or suppresses the rights of women, homosexuals, and others. And number four, that Islam was seen as a threat to the British way of life. Now, taking this ahead, if we speak about ethnicity, migration, and media, ethnicity, migration, and media in the United Kingdom, according to the ICAR, what does ICAR over here mean? When I use the word ICAR, I'm referring to the information center about asylums and refugees. So, the Information Center about Asylums and Refugees, the ICR in 2005 discovered a link between media coverage and community tension, which may have stemmed from the xenophobic attitudes most media sources had, especially regarding immigration. The tone that media outlets have is generally negative, leading to a negative attitude towards people of color as a whole. So, what we're talking about is the extent to which the way media represents a particular ethnic group, or the way or the way media portrays a particular ethnic group is discovered to be pretty unbalanced. It's discovered to be inaccurate. And even when you talk about the media image of asylum seekers, they made a significant contribution to harassment by local publics. So by the local residents or public. If asylum seekers are seen to be a threat to the British society, of course, the people who consume the media, they might end up not they might end up seeing them as outsiders, and they might react accordingly. So if we conclude this, the representation of race and ethnicity has indicated the power of the media to reinforce negative stereotypes of racial and ethnic minorities. The media in some countries have made real efforts to address this issue and to promote greater diversity, but further progress is likely to depend on the extent to which members of such minorities gain positions in the media production process. So, until and unless there are more of individuals from ethnic minority groups, until unless they gain positions of power in the media production process, this is something that would continue to persist within our societies. So this was a relatively shorter topic. And if we speak about how different sociological perspectives see this, we could speak about how the pluralists they see negative and marginal portrayals of ethnic minority because of the weak and powerless role within a society. According to the pluralists, this negative and marginal portrayal is changing today with the pass of time because of increasing representation from ethnic groups in the media. I mean, there has been an increase in representation, but there's more that is required as well. And there have been certain anti-discrimination policies and pressure groups that have made or that are working towards bringing a change as well. So this, I believe, is the end of this topic, and this leaves us with the one third subtopic, that is media representations of class and age, which we would be covering in the next lesson. Thank you. I hope this has been helpful.